Hey friend, in this tutorial, we are taking things back to the basics for a little bit. Something that I see in my retreats, in-person workshops, stuff like that from students who are slightly more on the beginner level, but it can happen at any level too, is the more tight, constricted, less natural looking brush strokes for things like flowers and trees mostly. And so I wanted to help those of you who are struggling with fluffing things up more and making it feel more organic and natural with two different brush techniques that you should practice over and over again. And we're gonna practice it with one simple subject. So if you're ready for this type of tutorial to help you elevate your paintings, make them feel more organic and natural and not so uniform or tight and restricted or elementary, then let's dive in. So if you've been around my videos for a while, you've been around this channel for a while, then you know I love trees. I think trees and practicing trees is one of the best things to do for both your brush technique, layering, understanding shape and shadow and dimension. But one of the really important areas that I love using trees as my demos for practicing brush technique is helping people really grasp how to make your strokes look a bit more organic instead of so uniform and so painted. You want them to look a little bit more organic. So one of my favorite, like I said, subject matters to practice for this, for my flowers, for anything that I want to add more texture, but I want it to look more organic and natural, is with trees. So a lot of times I'll see when people paint their trees, they'll just kind of leave it as at more of like a elementary level where they do the ruffledness or the texture with the actual shape of the actual, just like using it as like a pencil to color things in. I'm obviously exaggerating this. This isn't what you would probably do. But I see with a lot of my classes and retreats, people will just take the brush and start to just fluff up the tree like they're using a pencil or a marker or something and painting that way. And then not really utilize the power of the actual hair of the brush to make it more organic. So a couple different ways to fluff up something. So if you're adding stamen or details to flowers, or if you want it to look a bit more organic and leafy for your trees, then the first thing to practice and really get down is dry brush technique. So using really thick consistency, like really buttery, creamy consistency where the paint on your brush is fully coated and it's super thick. And then to also make sure that it doesn't have any excess water in there and it's gonna be really dry, just dab it on your paper towel or something dry to soak up some of that excess. And what you're gonna do is you're not gonna be afraid to smush and smash the brush. We're gonna reshape it after. If you've got quality brushes, then you don't need to worry about this. This is a feature of brushes where you really want to just smash, and you'll hear that scratching texture. And the more you dry it off, once you have color down, so I'm drying off and wiping, the more you can really utilize that dry texture to just automatically give you that tree, leafy, less uniform shape. I'll grab a little bit more since it's not spreading up in here. And just focus on fluffing up those outer edges instead of using the brush itself to outline it and be more of like a contour, using it like a pencil or a marker or something like that. You're utilizing multiple factors of the brush. You're using the paint because it's so dried out. It's a dry texture. It's going to give you more of that wispy. It's not going to fill in every gap. So it's going to be more wispy and more organic looking. So one of the best brush techniques to really drill down on is dry brush technique. Really practicing how, and maybe if you go to the outer edges and add water, what does it do if you keep drying it out? If you wanted to show lighter values and not just a darker value. And if I point my brush this way when I do it or on the side, what shape do I get? So you wanna like really mix it up and play with that and practice a few different trees. But already that looks way more natural and obviously more organic than doing something that's a little bit more uniform. And obviously this was over exaggerated, but it is something that I see a lot in people who haven't really spent much time practicing their brush techniques is that more organic look just kind of gets forgotten about. Maybe it's because they're using their brush more like a pencil, or it's just not something that they've practiced before or really learned. So practice dry brush technique. And then another way to fluff something up or give it those ruffly edges or more textured edges is by using the side of the brush and also using more pointillism. I don't know if you would call it with a brush or if that's just with sketching, but using a swirl, slanted hold. I'm self-taught, so we're coming up with words that people recognize. We're not using art school words. So I'm going to use a slanted hold. The brush is about 25-35 degrees away from the paper. And so when I put down my swirl for part of my tree that I'm filling in, I'm gonna go like, you know, a couple swirls where it's about, I don't know what that is, an inch tall, half an inch, I don't know. So here's our left side of our tree. And then I'm gonna grab that same color. Once I go about, you know, this much section is painted, I'm gonna go to the outer edges and flip my brush to a more vertical hold and just spin it. So I get random shapes out of it, and sometimes smash harder than others where there's just small dots and big dots. And obviously this maybe seems very obvious or intuitive to some of you, but this little just act of smushing and putting down the color first and then going around and fluffing up the edges can make all the difference to your flower paintings, to your trees. Smash, smash, smash. Fluff, fluff, random fluff. And it just will give it that obvious, even more like detailed looking. And then we can go back with our darker green color. Thick. And you can do the same thing with that darker green color to really accentuate that and make it feel more detailed. But it's all about the random shapes mixed in, like making it mixed in so it's not so uniform and all around. So dry brush technique, and also practicing the smash roll to a point. Strokes over and over and over and over. Give you very unique, very natural, and also detailed feeling textures and shapes to your trees, your flowers, etc., etc. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was helpful for you. This is something that you just have to go back to the basic drills and really practice them, develop the muscle memory, the motor skills, and sometimes you don't really know what you're practicing, especially in that beginner phase. You're not really sure what you're practicing and if it's doing anything, but then eventually it just clicks and you start to see the results and you start to see the difference between, oh, before I was outlining and coloring in, and so that's why it feels more like childlike, but now I use the brush as an extension of my arm and I'm using the all of the features of the brush, and you're then able to understand using the full features of the brush and what happens when you twist it, or when you put more pressure or less pressure, or when you try and use dry brush technique. There are so many different features in just one type of brush, one shape, one style of hair. So just really try to explore the same exercise we did in this tutorial. Don't just do it for your round brushes, do it for your filbert brushes, do it for your wash brushes, your quill brushes, your mop brushes, do it for all of them so you can really see what each different shape, even hair type, will get you with different holds and twists and less pressure, more pressure. So that is a really good drill to come back to, is just doing that simple dry brush, but then also the squiggle squiggle or toothbrush swirl, and then the dot dots. That's what we're gonna call it because that's just universal language, and I didn't go to art school. But if you want more basic drills like this from a professional artist, somebody who's been at this whole art thing basically my whole life. Yes, I didn't go to art school, but I'm very much experienced in art. My mom was an artist, both my grandmas were artists. I don't have all the technical terms down every single time. I've learned a lot and I do have them down somewhat. But if you want them broken down in a way that's digestible and that actually makes sense, because to me, while it's useful, it can just be an information overload if we're just talking about like all the different holds and what they're called and the formal names and all of that. And it's fine. It's just me and me personally. Don't take it personal. But that's my teaching style. Inside the Art Within, I break down all the main principles of art, like perspective, vantage point, color theory, composition, all of that. So if you want to go to art school, but from a teacher who didn't go to art school and who can teach you from actual experience and all of that and in a more digestible language, The Art Within. We also have the Complete Beginner's Guide to Watercolor, 3-hour or 2-hour deep dive video here on my YouTube, so it's free. So if you need help with watercolor and you're like just getting started, that's a great video. I also have a free ebook that goes in tandem with the video, so make sure you check that out. And as always, thank you so much for watching these videos, for liking, subscribing to our channel. All of that means the world to us and helps us continue putting out these amazing videos for you at home. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.